Which you're about to hear all about, focuses on two main things: first-year experience programming, more specifically orientation, and transfer students. So who am I and why is that relevant? Well, like I said, I'm Mel, and I'm originally from Pasadena, California. In 2014, I decided after I graduated high school that I would be attending Indiana University Bloomington. That version of reality didn't last long. I transferred to Texas Christian University at the start of my sophomore year. So there's that connection. I'm a transfer student myself. Many of the people listening to this now will not be surprised by the two words that come next: Frog Camp. Cheesy name, I know, but in all honesty, two words that changed my life immeasurably. Frog Camp is TCU's multi-day extended orientation program that takes place during the summer. My experience as a transfer student all began in the lobby of the Hilton Hotel in Fort Worth, Texas. I definitely did not know then that I would still be talking about that day now. My time at Frog Camp during my sophomore year and my time serving the organization throughout my junior and senior year serves as the inspiration for my current capstone project. So there's the second piece. I love orientation. Because of Frog Camp, I discovered my passion for higher education and student affairs that I could somehow turn into a career. In order to work within this field, the next logical step was for me to obtain my master's degree, and that's how I ended up here. Currently, I'm a student within the MLD program, which would explain why you're listening to me now, but I also serve as a graduate assistant in student engagement, specifically the Office of Fraternity and Sorority Life. My work primarily focuses on the fraternity population on Chapman's campus, where I'm challenged to apply relevant theory to working with students outside of the classroom. So that's a little bit about me. For my project, I developed a training specifically for orientation leaders working with transfer student populations at Chapman University. This training was created in collaboration with the Office of Residence Life and First Year Experience and will ideally be implemented prior to fall 2020 orientation. With the current state of the world, there is potential this will be in a virtual format. Currently, orientation leaders working with transfer students receive the exact same training as those working with traditional incoming first-year students. There's no specialized training on the different experiences or challenges of working with transfer student populations. The main goal of the project is to improve the transfer student experience, working to aid in their transition, increase their sense of belonging, and ultimately retention. By investing in the development and training of student leadership, the hope is to improve student experience. The training provides tangible information to orientation leaders so they feel more confident working with transfer students and answering their questions. A long-term goal of this training is to increase the number of transfer students who apply and ultimately function as orientation leaders. This would allow transfer students the opportunity to serve other incoming transfer students. Ideally, this dynamic creates an opportunity to bond over shared experiences and for the leader to advise and support students through their transition. This would also increase representation of non-traditional students in leadership roles on campus. In terms of literature, I explored orientation and transition, looking specifically at transfer populations, sense of belonging, first-year identity development, as well as retention and persistence. I relied heavily on the work of theorists such as Tinto, Aston, and Strayhorn. I delved into the history of orientation and the purpose it was originally created to fulfill, and how that has evolved over time. The work of Chapman and Koo taught me about transfer student expectations and how those are different than the expectations of traditional freshmen. I explored the unique challenges of identity development and formation in a predominantly first-year-centric narrative. Transfer students hold two conflicting identities: first-year students socially and academically, while simultaneously upperclassmen. Kaplan found the majority of transfer students were more likely to assert their transfer student identity during orientation by introducing themselves as transfer students than midway through the semester, perhaps because outwardly displaying their dissimilarity with those around them, they had hoped to be viewed and treated differently than the average first year. Transfer-specific programming creates an opportunity for students to relate to each other without the pressure of self-identifying and asserting their identity, relieving some tension and allowing for socialization and community building to take place. According to Tinto, orientation programming impacts the social, academic, and personal integration of incoming students, which then impacts persistence and potentially withdrawal within their first year at an institution. Aston's theory describes that the more students invest, both physically and emotionally, in their university, the more likely they are to persist. As students form connections to individuals and groups and develop a feeling of community, the more likely they are to graduate from that institution. Retention with transfer students is a bit more complex because these individuals have already left a previous institution. According to Kaplan's research, transfer students found value in events specifically created with the goal of socializing with other transfer students. Next, I explored the importance of sense of belonging on campus. According to Strayhorn, students are able to establish relationships with others on campus, which creates a feeling that they have value, and these relationships can then serve as a resource as the challenges and stressors of collegiate life impact individuals. Sense of belonging is not a desire that can be satisfied once and sustained. With ever-changing contexts and situations, individuals must be continually reaffirmed in order to avoid feeling of alienation. The reason sense of belonging is important is because it correlates to student satisfaction, which can have significant impacts on student retention, motivation, and persistence. If the goal of orientation is to facilitate successful student transition in order to achieve high retention numbers as a measure of student success, there is still work to be done in order to understand how to create this environment for transfer students. Thinking back about my MLD journey, it's only appropriate to reflect back on how it all began. I decided to look at my application to the program. I wrote, "There's still a lot of learning, practicing, and experiencing left to do, and I think that Chapman University is the best place for me to pursue this." That sentence was truer than I ever could have anticipated 2 short years ago. I had no idea what this program had in store for me, but it has impacted me in ways I never could have imagined. Chapman, I didn't always like you, but I sure do love you. My time in the program was definitely something I took for granted, and in light of the pandemic, I'm even more aware now of what I'm missing. With the current state of the world, the capstone I'm presenting is not the capstone I had previously envisioned, and that's okay. I have been forced to give myself a little bit of grace and understand that some things are out of my control. I think our entire cohort has been through the ringer when it comes to doing things in a new or different way. So if you guys were trying to teach us the value of adaptability, it worked. This project has enabled me to explore potential career paths and discover what serving in this role might look like from a professional standpoint. As a transfer student, my project created the opportunity to impact a population I would otherwise not have been able to work with. I'm grateful I got to learn more about a topic I'm passionate about, and I'm hopeful for what it may bring in the future. The fourth and final part, gratitude. Great in theory, hard to practice. To my professors during my time in the MLD, thank you. Thank you for putting up with me in class, calling me out when necessary, and pushing me to create work I didn't know I was capable of. If I'm being honest, the majority of the lessons I learned did not come from the assigned readings, but from our interactions, from hearing about your experiences, your constant guidance, and from watching your leadership styles firsthand. To Chris with a C, otherwise known as Hutch, none of this would have been possible without you. From interview day, where you had to sit in a room alone with me in a Sodexo taco bar for a couple hours, to the time you became my boss in student engagement, to now, I can't thank you enough. My experience in the program would have paled in comparison if it weren't for your authentic, articulate, honest, and sometimes wordy leadership. To Anna, my work wife, my other half, the Panhellenic to my IFC, thank you for always making sure I wasn't the only girl at IFC kickoff. It's been a crazy 2 years for both of us, and I'm grateful to have always had you by my side. To Maddie, my roommate, thank you for listening to me talk for hours and hours and being there through it all. I'm so glad we found each other in student engagement, and I can't wait to be friends for life. So, to Andy and Karen, it comes as no surprise that this was the hardest part of my speech to write, so naturally the piece I left until the very end. I don't even know where to start. I have a lot to say, but I know I won't be able to get many words out due to the tears already welling up in my eyes. The three of us were an unlikely trio, but I wouldn't change it for the world. You both have taught me so much, held me accountable when necessary, and challenged me in ways I didn't know I needed to be challenged. Dramatic. The memories we've made together will last a lifetime, regardless of where each of us ends up. I can't wait to see the way each of you changes the world. I love you guys, and I can't imagine this experience without you. And last but not least, shout out to the staff at Rue de Bagors. Definitely couldn't have done it without you and the garlic chicken salads. But don't worry, I'll be back soon, and I'll for sure take a Diet Coke to go.